everyone. Welcome to another Teach Kelvin Your Thing session. In today's session, we're going to be learning building full stack Next.js apps with Brandon Bayer. How you doing, Brandon?
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
I am good. I'm really excited to have you on this TKYT session. Thank you for taking the time out. Yeah. So before we get started, I think we need to have an introduction of who Brandon Bayo is. So could you give us a brief on that, who you are, what you've done, what you're doing, and what you're teaching us today?
Cool. So I'm an engineer, a founder, a airplane pilot, a helicopter pilot, uh, friend, and I love to just live life to the fullest. So I am currently the co-founder and CEO of Flightcontrol, which gives you a Heroku or Vercel style deployment experience on your own AWS account. So that's really awesome. Started a year ago, went through Y Combinator, and really just growing every month. So that's a blast. Before this, I created Blitz.js.com about 2.5 years ago, which we'll definitely talk about. And it's a toolkit for building full stack Next.js applications. And before that, I was consulting for a while, building applications for various clients, mostly using Next.js. And so that's kind of what led to Blitz and so forth. And before that, I was doing some Ruby on Rails stuff. And before that, which is where I started, was doing embedded programming, like programming microcontrollers, microchips with C. And so I'm doing a lot different stuff than I was then, but it's been a fun journey.
Oh my, that's amazing. I like when you started off like you're an engineer, you're pilot, airplane pilot, and and then you went all the way over to making embedded. You programming embedded systems with C, and you just like, whoa, who's this guy? He's a genius. That's just a lot you've done in your. So, how long has it been your tech journey so far?
um, I first started as a software intern in 2010, so it's been 12 years.
Oh man, that's that's a lot. Yeah, that's more than a decade, and it's cool. Yeah. So, although I would like for us to talk about embedded C programming, but we are talking
Please
about
no.
food. Okay, okay. Yeah, I was tempted, but no, let's stick to topic. Yeah, so we're gonna do so full stack Nest.js apps. So how about you tell me? So you mentioned in your introduction that you were consulting that led to building Blitz because you're building these Next.js apps for your clients. So yeah, so what made you feel that you needed to build Blitz.js apart from serving your clients? Like what was missing in the whole ecosystem over the tool? Yeah.
So, like, it started out, Next.js didn't even have API routes, right?
Mm.
And so then, like at that point, you if you're using Next.js for API stuff or even like create React app, you had
Mm-hmm.
to spin up like a separate Express server or something. And so whenever Next.js added API routes, that was like a really, in my opinion, like really like groundbreaking, like a monumental shift, because now I no longer had to have a separate backend, and I could code all my backend logic directly in Next.js.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like, I that was amazing for me. And but at the time I was using like Hasura,
Okay.
for example, to generate an API and to use that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there was still like, I was like starting to use TypeScript, and so it like it was still like it was working. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it was getting some type safety, having code generate GraphQL type generation. So you're getting type safety, but you were like had all these moving pieces. You had this Hasura server, and then the Hasura server would like trigger events back to the Next.js API routes to
Mm-hmm.
like run custom code, and it was like it was a pain to use. Like, were you using this kind of stuff back then, or like where did you come on the scene?
Yeah, so I had similar experience because of the whole like even though you're building full stack JavaScript application and you're using JavaScript, you still have this separation from the back and the front. And I really wanted to have the same mix. Like we are using JavaScript, and what was promised with Node.js was I could use JavaScript in the back end and the front end in the same code base, right? But that wasn't the case most of the time. Yeah, so things like Blitz just make sense that it just brings everything together. Yeah.
Yeah, so that like because I came from the Ruby on Rails
Mm-hmm.
framework, thing where it's like everything you needed to do, whether it was authentication or file uploads or whatever it was, like there was it was just like here, this is how you do it, and it's just kind of built into the framework or an easy kind of plugin.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really just missed that with the JavaScript world. It was like you're starting from scratch. You have to add testing by yourself. You have to add linting, um, and you just like have to make 1,000 decisions on just to get to ground zero.
Mm-hmm.
Like to be able to like log in as a user and sign up and stuff. Like it was like so much work just to get to that point. I was like, this is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I totally understand because I had the same issue because I came from a PHP Laravel background. And when I switched to Node, the issue was at the time Express was the thing to be used, right? But you need to piece in everything. And
Yes.
I don't know why people would like that, but to every man his own. But I prefer to have an MVC framework that has all smart choices made for me, and I just come put in my business logic and I'm shipping. But that wasn't the
Yes.
case. So I had to search and I found something called sales. And even at that, I still had this because I was using Vue and Nox made Vue kind of easy with the whole page stuff. But I still have like a client and the server. But this is Node. Like, why can't we have everything together? Then I discovered something called inertia that just struck a light bulb in my head. Like
Yes.
everything in a single place. This is what we needed. So I think that's
Yes.
something similar with what you were doing with Blizz, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Where I think I kind of use the term stack compression,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like compressing the stack. I think inertia does that, where
Yeah.
it's like you can use React stuff, but you don't have to have a separate like
Mm-hmm.
SVA. Like it's
Yeah,
just
exactly.
in your PHP code or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that's also one thing I wanted was like this whole API layer. Is just like the largest source of complexity and headache and it's just there's just so much going on,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like for what, right? Like I'm trying to do is just like get data from my back end, render on the front end, and then submit forms from the front end, get all the way
Mm-hmm.
back to my database. Like I don't want to spend all my time like messing with this API layer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that make total sense. Like, I can't really wait for you to show me Blitz because now I am super excited because it like sometimes you just have too many complexity in web dev and anything that simplifies all that and just because at the end of the day you just want to ship to your user, except maybe you're I don't know, you're not building a business or you just want to play out with things. You like all the complexity, but if you're trying to ship, the easiest it is, the better.
Yeah. So there's a lot of us that are that way, but unfortunately, there's also a lot of developers that really love like crafting their own like custom stack from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard as like a framework author, like someone trying to make tools in this,
Mm-hmm.
um, to like make everyone happy, right?
Yeah.
So we've tried with Blitz, we tried to like walk this balance of where um, we like have we kind of give you like a good setup to start with, but
Mm-hmm.
then still leave like all the code for you to customize, and then
Okay.
also like give you options when you're generating a new app. So
Mm-hmm.
trying to like give you sort of the 80%, of the benefit of a framework and of having some opinions and conventions, but with minimal trade-offs.
Okay.
Where like we give you something to start with, but making it really easy for you to customize and like do your own thing if you want to.
Oh, nice. That's amazing. Yeah. So, do you think this is a perfect segue to just get into it and just see what Blitz is?
Sure.
All right. So I'm sharing your screen right now.
Okay,
Okay. Here
so
we are.
I've already installed the Blitz CLI,
Mm-hmm.
and you can actually you can use create next app.
Mhm.
to generate a next app. But when you do that, let me just make this a little bit bigger here.
Okay.
Um, it's just a bare bones thing. Like you literally, if you want to add authentication, um, if you want to add all this kind of stuff,
Mhm.
it's just from scratch. So what people have, it's kind of a common thing now is have these like, I guess like in some senses almost like a boilerplate,
Mhm.
which boilerplates kind of had their heyday. I feel like some number of years ago, and then they kind of died off. People were like, "This is bad," but now they're making a comeback.
Mhm. Yeah, they are.
Um, so there's like Remix has all of their stack stuff. I
Mhm.
I forget like what the commands are, but those are a good way to like generate an app with like specific libraries. There is the T3 stack. I forget what the command T3. Okay, so you run npx create T3 app that
Mhm.
will generate a Next.js app. You know, with some. So we let you choose a form library. A couple of the top three recommended. I'm going to use Final Form, and you can see this generates a bunch of code for us, and it can be a little bit like maybe overwhelming. But once you kind of understand kind of how it is, then it's like it's quite simple, and then it's easy. Like every time you generate a new Blitz app, like you already know what you're getting, and all the code is there.
Mhm.
Um, and we take the approach of not just giving you like the super impressive like this is so simple hello world,
Mhm.
but instead we generate all the files that you're going to need to actually build a real application.
Nice.
So this includes like all of the authentication pages, login, sign up, forgot password, um, some basic form setups, and database stuff,
Mhm.
testing config, your all your pages for like authentication and whatnot,
Mhm.
and then a test setup.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm seeing RPC in the folder path. Um, I don't really know what that is, so maybe I'm just gonna wait and not try to find out so quickly.
Okay, so let me open this.
Mhm.
Um, and so you can see this is what you get when you generate a new Blitz app,
Mhm.
and you can directly go ahead and sign up. And so now, like, I just created a user and I'm logged in.
Nice.
Like,
Wow.
boom,
Yeah, out of the
like that is
box.
like so much more, yeah, out of the box. Like you're instantly ready to just like start writing code.
Amazing. No.
So um there's a couple different things we could like dive into the authentication stuff. We could talk about RPC stuff. What do you think we should do next?
Well, I was curious about RPC. Can we start from there? If it's
Yes.
not too over my head.
So
Yeah.
the whole idea with RPC is an API convention similar to REST and GraphQL.
Okay.
RPC is like a third option. RPC stands for Remote Procedure Call. So
Mm-hmm.
it's essentially just running a function on another machine. So you send some
Mm.
input to another machine and you get some output. So
Mm.
it's just a very simple like mental model is like, hey, I'm just calling a function. And
Okay.
so whenever I was like, when I first started Blitz, I did not have this idea, but I wanted to compress that stack, right? I wanted to, number one, I wanted to get type safety, full
Okay.
end-to-end type safety
Mm-hmm.
without a code generation process,
Yeah.
which did not exist. And I wanted to simplify the API layer. Like I wanted to not have to be writing API endpoints and modifying GraphQL schemas and all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
So one day I was laying in a hammock in Thailand, thinking about like how can this be, and I asked myself, what would it look like if it was easy to like get to send data back and forth from the client? Like, what is the easiest possible thing that I could think of? And I got this picture in my head of like, hey, I think the easiest thing is if I just have a function that I write on the server, and then I import that function into my React component, it just like use it like a normal function.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's no API, no fetching or whatever, just like a function call. I was like, whoa, that sounds amazing. Like maybe we can make it work.
Yeah.
And so that's what Blitz RPC turned into.
Nice. Okay. So, yeah, I think we could dive into the code and see how those function calls are made, right?
Yes. So I'm going to go ahead and just um, run the Blitz generate command, and this is going to generate like all the files I need for a project. So this is like create, read, update, delete, all for the project model, and you can put any name here.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Yeah. So it's like the your database model called
yes.
project.
So yep,
Okay. Cool. Got you. All right. So I
and all the
see.
pages.
Yeah. So I see under the hood your OLM is Prisma, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
So Blitz is database agnostic. You can
Oh,
use any
okay.
database, anything you want. But this new app we generate with Prisma.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Got you. Yeah. So, are there any other pieces that that makes up Blitz apart from Next.js? Let's see, Prisma. Yeah. Any other thing I'm
Nextjs,
missing?
Prisma,
Mm-hmm.
BlitzAuth, and Blitz RPC are like the four kind of main
Okay. Cool.
things. Yep.
Yeah. All right.
So
Cool.
let's look at some code here. Um, get rid of all these crazy warnings.
Mm-hmm.
So I think let's see what I want. Let's just do like a simple the get project function.
Okay. All right. Got you.
Let's see,
Okay.
how do I get rid of? There we go. So this is a query resolver,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just a normal function that runs on the server.
Okay.
So this you're exporting as a default function, and we have like a functional pipe operator here that just
Mm-hmm.
makes it easy to compose things together like authentication and input validation.
Okay. Okay.
So we're
Cool.
doing input validation with Zod, which is
Mm-hmm.
a library that gives you runtime validation and type safety.
Okay.
And then we're running authentication. And then here's where the business logic code is.
Mm. Okay. Yeah.
So this
Okay.
is calling Prisma and just getting a project from the database.
Okay. Yeah, so to like map this to my current mental model, your resolver.authorize method call, it's similar to like an auth middleware, so to speak.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Got you.
So if you
Nice.
aren't logged in,
Mm-hmm.
then this will throw an authentication error,
Okay.
and this code after it will never run.
Okay. Yeah.
You can also do things like if you want to require you to have a certain role,
Mm-hmm.
then you can do that as well.
Nice. Wow. Saying the dot pipe sort of just feels like, Unix pipe, how you could pipe output and streams. It's yeah,
Yeah.
it makes it so composable and it reads
Yep.
well. Yeah, I like it. So one question is, can you swap Zod and authorize call? Because probably you would want to authorize first before even thinking about validating the input. Or is that wrong?
You can.
Okay. Oh,
Um,
okay.
but what's
Mhm.
going to happen is you will no longer get the type inference. So
Okay.
the type you would have to manually define the type input. So since that's first,
Okay.
then anywhere we use this function. So let's just do no export default.
Okay.
Oops,
Yeah. I think you're missing an equal to at the top.
I need an equal
Yeah.
sign.
Yeah.
So if we do get project, you can see that the input is is like says it
Okay.
needs to be an ID,
Mm-hmm.
which is a number,
Okay.
and that
Cool.
comes from the Zod schema.
Mm-hmm. All right. Got you. Got you. That
So
makes sense.
if we move this up here, then it's the input is unknown unless
Yeah.
you'd have to
Mm.
manually define that.
Okay. Cool. Now I see. Yeah. That makes total sense.
So see this ID here is also typed from the Zod
Yeah.
schema.
From the dot schema. Yeah. That makes sense. I like it. All right.
So it's always like if you're doing TypeScript, it is always like ideally you want to write as few types as possible. Like if you're always having to write like type thing is, like
Mm-hmm.
whatever string stuff, like there's times when you have to do that, but you want to try to minimize that and use type inference as much as you can.
Mm-hmm. I like that. That makes sense. So, the resolver we're using right now, I see it's coming from Blitz/RPC, right?
Yes.
Um, I'm I wouldn't say I've completely understood RPC. So the
So
resolver,
this is
yeah,
just the server side of it.
okay,
So this is like the server side logic.
mm-hmm,
So we're just getting a project from the database.
okay,
So now, like, how would you, let's say this was like an API route, and you wanted to like call this API route from the client. Like, how would you do that
okay.
with just a normal
Um,
API route? Like, you would
if
just be
if you just
using
yeah
fetch
yeah
and
yes
whatever, right?
yeah just give fetch and the URL or the endpoint, so to speak.
Yeah,
Yeah.
convert it to JSON and like all that stuff, or use Axios or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So with Blitz RPC, you don't need any of that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go look at how this works. So uh, project ID page is where um, you're going to be. So you can see the path of your project ID. So this is just like to display a single project.
Mm-hmm.
So we just have like the component here to we get the project ID out of the URL,
Okay.
the router,
Yeah.
and then the important line is this use query hook. So this is use query.
Mm-hmm.
Blitz RPC is built on top of React Query.
Okay.
React Query handles all your fetching, your client side caching, cache and validation, all of those things, and gives you just a really really great experience. So like I highly recommend that. Um, Even if you're not using any Blitz stuff, like if you're using React, like you should be using React Query in my opinion
Okay. Yep. You heard that, folks.
for
Use
client
React
side
Query.
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so this get project.
Mm-hmm.
Look, we're just importing this function that we exported. Like this is a server function, has server side code in it, and we're importing it directly into our component.
Yeah.
And you can see that this output is the same project type.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Hmm.
can do project dot whatever, and you get like all the autocomplete.
Nice.
So
Hmm.
that is like it's almost like so simple. It's like it kind of just like breezes breezes
Yeah.
past you. It's like how can it be that simple? But like there's no fetch stuff. There's no serialization, deserialization. Um, all of that is handled for you by the Blitz library.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is actually exposed as an API endpoint at runtime.
Okay.
And this is at build time, this is swapped out for a fetch function
Nice. Oh,
that will
so
call that
okay.
endpoint.
Nice. Yeah, it sort of feels like the old idea with what I was talking about with inertia. So
Yes,
with
exactly.
yeah, so on that mental model, every input into your pages comes as props. So there's no fetching. You just magically get them. Not really magically, but you get the idea. You just
Yeah,
get them, so you don't have to do anything. That makes a lot of sense. It just simplify the entire way to reason about the app. Like, do I need to make a fetch stuff to get my data? You just get them inside your front end code, and that makes a lot of sense.
exactly.
Yeah, I like it.
So Usually, like reading data is always like the easy part, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
writing data is like the hard part.
Yep.
Like for example, if you're using get server side props, it's easy to read the data. But then you're like, oh, now I have to write an API route just to do the mutations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but thankfully, not with Blitz. It's just as easy. So let's see. We have this delete mutation. So delete project. So this is the server side mutation resolver. So we're doing the same thing. Zod authentication and then database call.
Yeah. Oh,
And now
cool.
to use it, we use the user mutation hook. We import that file from the function we were just in,
Mm-hmm.
and then down here in the button on click, we just call this like it's just a normal function call.
Wow. That's amazing.
Like that's like, and so it is so freaking fast to build stuff with it. And like the first, like even though I built this for the first while that I was using it, I would like be adding endpoints or whatever. I'm like, wait, what else? Like, there's got to be more stuff. Like, it was like so hard on my brain to real
Mm.
to be like, this is just so
This,
freaking fast.
yeah, this is just it. Like, I think anyone that wants to build full stack app with React should get this, right? Because, well, everything you're calling are just functions, right? So you have the function and so there's literally no backend no more. Everything is just one
Well,
thing.
there is.
Yeah,
Like
yes,
this is your backend.
yeah,
It's just
like
easy.
yes. So the point is, there's no I have to call an endpoint right now to get data from the backend because you just import the function which is your backend endpoints and just use it directly in your code and call it like a method or a function. That makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. So one thing, like, uh, and a lot of engineers will be like, "Oh, like there's too much magic here. I don't know what's going on," and it's literally, it is very simple. So let's like go look at the how it's working in the browser. Um, so we will go to projects. Uh, let's just go ahead and create something. And so this right here is all the code that we just generated with that blitz generate command.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so if we go into um, network and reload, um, search for RPC, then you can see there is it does it just calls a post method
Mm.
on this RPC route,
Yeah.
and it has the input. Let's see, where is the input data is in. Here's the request payload. So the parameters is the like the input to the function, which
Yeah.
was just an ID of one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the response is the same thing. It's just whatever the function returns. So uh, your ID name created that, updated that.
Mm. Nice. That's good.
So
So,
there is magic here in that we handle the fetch calls for you and stuff, but it's just like a pipe. Like
okay.
whatever you send through it is exactly what you get out the other side. Like there's no like we're not changing your data or like doing anything like that. It's just it just helps you get the data from one side to the other.
Mm. Yeah. See, yeah. So it's like it actually goes back to what you said before in RPC. You could call a method or a function from another machine. So it so
Exactly.
so in this case that machine it's our backend code. So we just call it a method from it. Right. That's
Yes.
super good. All right.
So this is one really interesting thing here is this created at
Mm-hmm.
it's a string. Okay. This is in
Mm-hmm.
the network. It's a string. It has to be a string. You can't send a date object over the network,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's go look at this function here. And project dot created at is a date.
Mm.
Well, okay, so let's go look and see what it is on the client. Um, so if we go up here, project dot created dot, where there's also a date.
Yeah, it
There's a
is.
string in the network.
Wow.
So
Okay.
Blitz handles complex object serialization for you. So we automatically convert the date to a string to send it over the wire, and then
Mm-hmm.
convert it back to a date on the client. And that's something that you would have to manually do, like with REST or GraphQL, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And so we just like all these like little annoying things that you have to deal with when you're building stuff. We just like try to smooth as many of those out as possible.
Wow. Yeah, that's it. We've gotten so used to doing it, we don't even think it's annoying anymore. But it does make sense. Like, you don't have to worry about converting your date. You're gonna get a date since you're sending the date
Exactly.
from the backend. It's amazing. Yeah. So what can we do right now? Like, any fun other features you'll be showing off for me, or should we just like try and crack up something, add more features to this project, and just see how that goes?
We could look into the some of the authentication stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Please,
Actually,
let's do
one
that.
last thing on the RPC is we have this is the RPC route. So it's Pages API, RPC, and the
Mm-hmm.
spread blitz thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is how we expose all of those RPC endpoints as an API route.
Oh, cool. Got you.
So okay, so authentication. So Blitz auth is like the other alternative is next auth. Like if you're doing
Okay.
authentication in Next.js, that's really your two
Mm,
options: next auth or Blitz auth. They're
okay.
both in there. They're both good, but they take very different approaches to how they build things.
Mm-hmm.
So next auth is very declarative in that it basically abstracts everything away and just gives you a few declarative hooks like session data and whatnot that
Mm-hmm.
is like in one file and you're like adding your code there. Blitz takes the opposite approach and says no, we're not going to abstract. We're going to abstract only the minimal amount,
Yeah.
and we're going to give you imperative APIs, simple imperative APIs that allow you to really like build extremely complex flows however you want. And so it really sets you up for like building actual business, building enterprise applications where you have full control over the like authentication stuff.
Yeah.
But you saw like there was literally no work that I had to do to set it up
Yep.
because I used Blitz New, right? It just generated it.
Yes, you did.
So let's go look at like the sign up mutation. So this also has the pipe and resolver.zod in here.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's the business logic. So we're going to hash the password.
Okay.
Secondly, we're going to create the user in the database.
Right.
And then we're going to call the Blitz authentication function to create a session, which means like to log in a user.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's all it is. It's just one single line to log the user in.
Oof. Cool.
And if you have stuff data that you want to read on the client, like the session data, like user ID and stuff, user role, then you just pass those in here in this
Okay.
function call. And then you can go on the client and let's see, pages index. I'm not sure if we are doing this anywhere. We're not doing pages. Okay, I'll just add it in here. So you can add a uh, session equals use session.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a use session hook, and then you can access the user ID and the role, which comes
Nice.
from over here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just extremely like simple but powerful.
Yeah. That's what we want to build with. Simple but powerful. Yeah.
Yes. And the way oh yeah, so how all this stuff is hooked together is we have two files, Blitz client and Blitz server.
Okay.
And so this is where we have this auth plugin.
Mm.
And so
Oh,
so
okay.
this is this is where you set up your authentication. You can change your database adapter.
Okay.
You can customize like your cookie, your auth config. So if we just go over here, like the cookie prefix, that
Okay.
kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, yeah, cool.
And then here you can see that has we have the oops the auth plugin and the RPC plugin.
Nice. Nice. That's
And so these work really well together.
mm-hmm.
So the benefit of like an alternative setup would be Nextauth and TRPC, but they're like totally separate projects, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want to integrate those together to make them like more seamless, like it's a lot of work, if it's possible at all. But with BlitzAuth and BlitzRPC being like in the same ecosystem, then you can put them together,
Mm-hmm.
and that they automatically work together. So for example, if the user logs out,
Yeah.
it'll automatically invalidate all of the client side cache from the RPC data.
Okay.
And so it just works just like you'd want it to. So if you log out, it'll refetch all the queries. If you
Mm-hmm.
log in, it'll refetch all the queries. Um, and also like if your RPC has authentication error, like they just work really, really well together.
Yeah, nice. So I'm feeling the reason why okay, so this is just my hunch. Like why you using Next and not like just um not using just like using Next mostly because of the routing, right? The pages routing. Because you're not doing that in Blizz, right? You're leaving that off to Next. So that's
Yeah,
why you're not using
correct.
something like using just the React components, right? Cool.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, sure. That's dope.
Yep. So Blitz doesn't do anything that the Next.js does. Like
Okay.
Blitz is just libraries that goes on top of Next.js. Um, Mainly the authentication package, the RPC package, and then also like code scaffolding for generating a new app, things
Okay.
like that.
Cool. I like it. That's totally good. Yeah. So I guess should we, I think we have a bit of time. Can we play around with things?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, let's build up on this
Um,
project and see where we could do.
we could do. Um, I mean, it's so easy just to add pages. That's kind of easy. One
Mm-hmm.
thing we could do is like add multi-tenant authentic or multi-tenant. So where like if you have an organization and then users can belong to multiple organizations,
Yeah, that's
something
fun.
we could do quite
Yeah.
easy. Uh, let's just go look at the docs for this
Mm.
multi-tenant. So we have a documentation, a guide on
Yeah.
this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we kind of give you the recommended schema setup here for like how to have users and memberships and whatnot. So let's just go ahead and copy this, go into the Prisma schema file.
Okay.
Uh, let's close these. Um, we're going to paste this in. So we have the organization, which is a top level model. We have membership, which is a link between organizations and users.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where you define like the role, whether admin or user or whatever.
Okay.
And then we have the user model. And I think we just need to um, copy this down here. And I think the enum does not work in um, SQLite, which is which what we're using locally here. I think so. I think this is going to work. Um, so you can literally just do like pm Prisma generate, or let's see, in this case, migrate.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also use the Blitz CLI, and it will ensure that all the environment variables are loaded, which Prisma is like historically not. They only load like one file, not everything.
Okay. Cool.
A model user cannot be defined.
Just
Oh, yeah, we
yeah,
need to
yeah,
get
we
rid of
have a
this.
user model. Okay.
Okay. You define the enum, but the current connector does not support enum. So yeah, this is what I was talking about,
Mm-hmm.
where um, its SQLite does not support this. So we just have to use strings instead, and just have to get rid of this. And then membership role is going to be a string. I think that'll work. Works. Okay, so now the database is updated. So go back to the docs. Um, so we need to update your sign up mutation to also create an organization and a membership. So we'll get this. Go back to, here it is. So in the create, it's going to be something like organization name. Okay, so we need to go and actually, we're just going to hard code this for now, but you could add this to the sign up to the form and whatnot.
Okay.
And we actually just want to move this over here. Extra. Okay, hold on, what's going on here? Memberships does not exist. So I think this might be where I need to start TS server.
Okay. Oh, did that fix it?
Yeah, I fixed it.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
which is it's just a common TypeScript thing, like where you update the types because we ran Prisma generate
Mm-hmm.
and that updated the types for this thing. Sometimes VS Code is lazy.
Yeah. Too lazy. VS
Um,
Code. Catch
okay,
up.
back to the docs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the above data model allows a single user to be in multiple organizations. So how can we track which organization a user is currently like accessing or modifying?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so the best way is to only let the user access a single organization at a time. And then you can let them like switch between which organization you're viewing. That way they're just like always in the context of just one organization. It makes it much easier.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to go and add this type to types.ts file.
Okay.
So we are going to go back to VS Code, go to types.ts, and this is where we can. So this is the public data, the session public data, and this is just amazing. This is like a work of magic here.
Mm-hmm.
I uh, had some friends that helped like set all this TypeScript stuff up to work like this, but it really works really well because now this gives you type safety everywhere in your application for your authentication stuff.
Nice.
Okay, so we got that, and now update all the places where we use session.create. You need to add org ID, which is going to be like this. Back to sign up, um, and this in here. Uh, let's see. Object is possibly undefined, so I guess we will
Okay.
this. The other way to do that, probably the better way would be to use cert. I think we have this from Blitz, and you can do
Okay.
so it's going to
Yeah.
be const membership equals assert membership membership, and then
Okay.
that's the best way actually.
Yeah. That's
Assert
that's that
is a
reads
function
well
that comes from
for
a
Blitz.
utility that comes from Blitz.
Okay. Cool.
That's the best
So
way to fix type errors.
yeah. So the exert. What does it do? Like, is there any other thing it does than just,
So
yeah?
it takes a condition.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a condition as the first argument, and it asserts that is truthy. So if this
Okay.
is empty, like if it's undefined, it's going to throw an error with this message.
Okay. All right. So that error is like, let's see, a 4-1 error.
In this case, it's going to probably be like a 400 error
Okay. Oh,
because it's just a
yes, yes,
general.
yes. Yes, 400. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Got you.
But with RPC stuff, you don't need to know about any of the error codes actually,
Mm-hmm.
which we could. So since you bring up error handling, um, let's say throw new um, error. Okay, so if you throw an error or any code in here throws an error,
Mm-hmm.
if you go into the root application um, and we have this error boundary at the very root,
Okay.
and this is the component that renders if there's an error, and this error comes in, and you can literally do like if error is instance of authentication error, then render this.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
So you can this is super easy to handle the errors and display whatever you want.
Thanks. Cool. Yeah, that makes sense.
So you literally you throw the error on the server and you catch it on the client,
Got you.
which is also like an amazing like productivity
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, that's good. I like it.
Okay, so back to actually let me get rid of this. I think that is basically it. So I guess one more thing would be uh, you must filter your queries by organization ID. And so this in this case, we should add organization ID to projects, and then we could filter by them. Um, but we'll skip that for now. And so now, I think if we have the basics, the Blitz dev is the same thing as Next dev, except that it loads. Uh, so Blitz dev uh, just runs next dev, but before that, it runs all the environment variables, and it allows you to do things like Blitz dev staging, and then it will load like .env staging, and that's something that Blitz doesn't support.
Okay.
So load this. Um, oh yeah, one more thing. Yes, code is on the this index. We're going to go ahead and session, we'll use session, and then where we are rendering this thing here, we're going to do org ID, and this is going to be session.org ID. And so if we go back to home, so I'm still logged in with the first user that wasn't attached to an organization. So
Yeah.
let's log out, sign up as a new user. Um, Now you can see that it created an organization.
Nice. Wow. So multi-tenancy is not a trivial feat. I know because we've had to build that from scratch. And even you just abstracting this alone is a selling point for Blitz because maybe you're building a SaaS application, you want multi-tenancy, and you're using Blitz and you know that's taking care of like 90% of the job is done. It's a win, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, so I think we have really covered like I don't want this to drag too much, but we have really covered like most of everything you need in a full stack app. You covered auth, you covered the routing, of course, that's done. Then error handling, then the RPC bit that makes it easy to do your backend calls. Yes,
Yeah.
that's
So here's the other alternative is using Nextauth
okay.
instead of BlitzAuth. So you can try it out, see what you like better. The alternative for BlitzRPC is TRPC. So
Mm-hmm.
you can try that out. It does have a lot more boilerplate, a
Yeah.
lot more like stuff you have to do. but some people like that. And Blitz.js.com is like where all the Blitz stuff is, where you can find out documentation on authentication, RPC, whatnot.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, I think we could close the call right here, and this is good stuff. And thank you so much, Brandon. So,
You're
is there
welcome.
anything you want to plug? Oh, whoa, whoa, one more thing. Yes, I think you're actually going for it. Deployment, right? That's the
Yes.
thing. Yes. How do I get how do I launch a Blitz app?
So you can deploy Blitz app, since it's just Next.js. So
Mm-hmm.
deploy anywhere you can deploy Next.js, which is pretty much anywhere.
Okay.
Deploy it to Vercel, deploy it to Netlify, to all these places. If you want to use AWS, Flightcontrol is by far the easiest way to deploy
Mm-hmm.
um, Blitz or Next.js, or really any application to AWS.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, Flight Control is free for personal use.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's very affordable for commercial projects.
Yeah, sure. I'm definitely gonna check it out. Yeah. Any other plugs you want to do? Because for your time, you're given the privilege to plug away.
Um, I will plug being a pilot. Uh,
Okay.
being a pilot is so much more affordable
Mm-hmm.
than a lot of people think. Or especially in the U.S. I should in other countries it can be quite expensive. Like Europe is like twice as expensive as the U.S.
Okay.
In the U.S. it's like about $10,000 to get your license.
Wow.
Um, you can buy a plane for like 20,000,
Okay.
or you can rent an airplane for like $150 an hour.
Mm.
So
Okay.
the initial cost to get your license is, $10,000. That's definitely a chunk. But then once you have that, then you can fly for a couple, you know, hours a month for just a couple, a few $100s. Um,
Yeah.
so the cool thing you can do, whether you actually become a pilot or not, is
Okay.
just go to your local airport and
Mm-hmm.
say, or call them up and be like, "Hey, I want an introductory flight lesson or a discovery flight lesson," and you'll have to pay $100, $150, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You'll go flying for like 30 to 60 minutes, and they will teach you how to fly. They'll give you all the basics.
Okay.
Um, and so it's a really, really cool experience. Maybe do it for your birthday or I don't
Nice.
know, some celebration or something. So I highly
Yeah.
recommend that.
Cool. If I'm like anytime I'm in the US, like flying a plane is something on my bucket list. So anytime in the US, I'm gonna holler at you and see how we could
Yes.
get this
And
happening.
I have definitely I have an open invitation to anyone on the internet.
Ooh.
If you come visit me in Dayton, Ohio, I
Mm.
will take you flying. But
Wow.
just make sure that I'm here before you come because I do travel a lot.
Okay. Yeah, of course. You're a digital nomad. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Brandon. So, speaking about reaching you, where can we get you online? Like, what's Twitter? Any
Um,
other social?
yeah, Twitter is the main one, Fly
Mm-hmm.
Bear.
Yeah, okay,
Um,
good. Yeah, I will definitely add that to the description. So yeah, thank you so much, Brandon. Thank you for teaching me Blitz, making full stack Next.js app. It has really been an exciting TKYT session, and I just want to thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.